It was one day before the Democratic primary in New Hampshire. Candidate Barack Obama had just come off a big win in Iowa. He was steamrolling into New Hampshire. He had one day to go until New Hampshire voted. Things were looking great for him in the polls. And then this happened.
You know, I have so many opportunities from this country. I just don't want to see us fall backwards. You know, so... You know, this is very personal for me. It's not just political. It's not just public. I see what's happening, and we have to reverse it.
That was Hillary Clinton with her presidential campaign on the line, sort of breaking down a little bit on the campaign trail in New Hampshire, showing real emotion after being asked by a New Hampshire voter how she stays so upbeat during a campaign that's had so many ups and downs. It did not seem to be a planned thing. It seemed to take the candidate by surprise as much as it took everybody else by surprise. But that ended up being a standout moment for the Hillary Clinton for President campaign in a good way. It was a window into Hillary Clinton, the person that the public didn't often get to see. And it worked. I mean, whether it was due to that moment or not, Hillary Clinton, the very next day, won the New Hampshire primary going away. And even though she didn't go on to win the nomination, ultimately, that moment is locked into political history as a winning moment for her. A candidate who can break through like that in human, emotional terms, that is a priceless thing. And it's unforgettable. But you can't just try to do it, right? You know, it can't be planned. Crying on the campaign trail is sort of an all-or-nothing proposition. If it happens authentically, then yeah, you probably do end up looking great. You look like the most relatable person ever. But if it's inauthentic, if you force it or you fake it, that is so much worse than never trying it in the first place. And with that, enter Charlie Baker. Republican candidate for governor in Massachusetts. Charlie Baker's in a tight race with Democrat Martha Coakley. He has been dinged in this race for being a little stiff, a little non-emotional. But earlier this week, in their last TV debate before the election, Charlie Baker got his chance to pull a Hillary Clinton in New Hampshire. It was one of those wild card questions that sometimes happens in a debate. The moderator asked both candidates, when was the last time you cried? And I don't think there's any reason to think that Charlie Baker knew that question was coming. But boy, was he ready for it. As soon as the tell me about you crying question was asked, as if on cue, Charlie Baker just turned it on. Watch this.
So I got asked the other day, and I may not make it through this story. I got asked the other day if to tell somebody some interesting stories of people I'd met over the course of the campaign. And I told a story about a fisherman that I met in New Bedford down on the docks who was coming off the boat. He was a big, huge man, completely soaked in sweat and salt water. And I said I wanted to talk to him about the business and the industry. And he kind of looked at me and he started to cry. And so I gave him a hug. He was a big, huge guy. It was like hugging a mountain. And he shook for a while, and then we started talking about the business and the industry and the federal government. And then he said, see those two kids up there? And he pointed to these two boys on the boat. And he said, those are my sons. And he said, they were both spectacular football players at New Bedford High School who were given college scholarships to go play football. And I told him no. I said, you're going to be fishermen. I was a fisherman. My brothers were fishermen. My father was a fisherman. You're going to be fishermen. And I ruined their lives. And you hear those kinds of stories every day.
That moment, that raw emotion, became the story of the campaign so far in Massachusetts. In the Boston Globe, it was, quote, the moment that defied Democrats' attempts to cast Charlie Baker as a heartless technocrat. The Boston Herald said it was the defining moment of the election. Listen to this one. When Charlie Baker lost it Tuesday night, I was standing in my kitchen finishing the dinner dishes, and I swear to God, I felt a lump in my throat, too. It was a weirdly seminal moment. In a tough and tight election that's going down to the wire, it instantly became must-see TV. It was live. It was riveting. It was cringeworthy. It was real. Except maybe now it wasn't. This is such a weird story, but within the last 24 hours, Charlie Baker's story, the moment that made all of the Massachusetts press swoon, it has sort of fallen apart. That story that Charlie Baker told during that debate was about a New Bedford fisherman that he met during this campaign, he said, who forced his two boys to forego their college football scholarships to instead become fishermen themselves, thus ruining their lives. Cue the waterworks. After Charlie Baker broke down telling that story in such great detail, the local press in Boston started trying to report out that amazing story. But that means asking for specifics. When during this campaign did you meet this guy? What's his name? Can we talk to him? Can we talk to his sons? And when the press started asking those questions about this guy who Charlie Baker says he met on this campaign, the press started coming up dry.
You're going to be fishermen, and I ruined their lives.
Charlie Baker getting emotional during last night's gubernatorial debate here at WCVB. He says he was recounting the story of a New Bedford fisherman who's been burdened by unfair regulations. News Center 5's Pam Cross spent today looking for that fisherman.
When I saw him on the news this morning crying, he came off to me as genuine.
He's talking about Republican candidate for governor Charlie Baker. The final debate at the WCVB studios. Baker asked when he last shed tears. He related the story of a New Bedford fisherman talking about his sons.
And he said, they were both spectacular football players at New Bedford High School who were given college scholarships to go play football. And I told him no. I said,
So exactly who was Charlie Baker talking about? No one here seems to know.
No one here seems to know. In fact, no one anywhere seems to know. Here's the local newspaper in New Bedford, where Charlie Baker says he met this fisherman. Quote, people intimately involved with the city's fishing industry and high school athletics say they don't know of a family that fits Baker's description. Quote, no one comes to mind that I can think of, said Jim Kendall, president of New Bedford Seafood Consulting. I've gotten several calls on this, texts and emails too. I've checked around. Nobody seems to be able to put a finger on who it would be. A source with a longtime association with New Bedford High School athletics said after many years familiar with the program, he didn't know of any two brothers there receiving football scholarships, never mind going fishing instead. So after asking and asking and asking, finally, the Charlie Baker campaign was forced to acknowledge today that the story that Charlie Baker turned on the waterworks for at that debate to such great effect was actually a 5-year-old story, and you'll just have to believe them that it's true because, no, they can't remember who Charlie Baker talked to or where that guy might be now. Charlie Baker just got grilled about this today on the campaign trail.
I remember things that people tell me. I mean, I heard that story 4 years ago, and every time I tell it, it's like it happened 5 minutes ago, as far as I'm concerned.
It's like it happened 5 minutes ago. Look at this. Charlie Baker then told reporters that he may have gotten a detail or two wrong, but the fisherman, quote, certainly existed for me. This race is deadlocked right now in Massachusetts. The latest poll out today shows Charlie Baker with a 3-point lead. That's within that poll's margin of error. But I should tell you that polling was done before Massachusetts voters had any idea what a good actor Charlie Baker is.